Well, good day and welcome to the program yet again. My name's Grant. It's good to have your company today. My guest on the program today was born in St. Thomas, US Virgin Islands. She's an anointed, multi gifted preacher and prophetess psalmist. She's also a loving mother, wife. She has her own business in financial and computer solutions, believe it or not, and she's obtained her bachelor's degree in accounting. She's also a Christian educator, and she has a doctorate as well. Who am I talking about, though? The one and only Pastor Keri Fraser. Hello, Keri.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad you took time out of your busy schedule. I'm like, how can she make time for this? Kerry, I hope you don't mind me calling you Kerry. Is that all right?
No,
Okay, so
no, I
look,
feel like we're family already.
I know. All right, so you've got the single, the
Yeah,
refreshing. It's you recorded last year an EP called the refreshing, and four
yes.
tracks, which we will get to. But in my introduction, I mentioned that you were born in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and I want to know all about you. Our viewers, our listeners, they want to know all about you. Okay, so where
Wow.
should we start? Should we start from the ages of, say, like three?
Can I remember that far back?
All right, so tell us, what was it like growing up in the area where you were born?
Well, as you mentioned, I was born in the beautiful United States Virgin Islands. And, I felt like I grew up around so much love and joy. Being on the islands, I love it with all my heart. And so, I had a family that really surrounded me with faith in God. And so, from a young age, I really felt like I had this connection and a relationship with God. As an island girl, I do things at my own pace. We have a very relaxed pace, I would say. But I did have a very, very great childhood. Did it have its challenges? Yes. But in all of it, I saw love, I saw forgiveness, I saw reconciliation. The ups and downs allowed me to see, what faith in God can allow you to go through and be strong and resilient. And so I love the Virgin Islands, and I tell everyone only God could get me to move out of the Virgin Islands, but um, it's my love, my home.
It sounds like paradise.
It's
It
America's
does.
paradise.
I want to jump on the plane now and come and visit.
Yes,
So the
yes,
beaches and
absolutely.
everything, blue
Oh,
blue water, and
and for us, it was almost like the beaches. One of the things I was so grateful for is that we got to enjoy it. It wasn't just the tourists that
right,
enjoyed it.
yeah.
We got to enjoy the beaches, the beauty of the island, the culture. It's just a wonderful place. I definitely love the Virgin Islands.
How did you become a singer? Because I'm thinking, you've got your bachelor's, and we'll get to all of that. But
Yes.
how did you become a singer? Was it just by going to church and someone said get up there and sing, or what was it?
Yeah, I didn't know that it would be on my agenda actually, but I knew I loved to sing. My father could sing. I tell anybody, not my mom. I did not get
Your
it
mum
from
couldn't
my
carry a
mom.
note, even if it was in a
No,
bucket.
she could not carry a note in a bucket, but she taught me faith. So we're going to give her a pass on that.
Okay.
But I definitely got it from my dad. I was around music with him. But to tell you the honest truth, when I dedicated my life to God and I started to sing praise and worship, we used to call it devotion.
Okay.
But when I started to sing in that light, I realized that it wasn't just about me loving to sing, it was about the impact that I saw in people's lives. And that's how I think God navigated me into that space. I didn't really know that singing would be such a big part of my life. But After I realized that through song, I could impact people, I realized that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah. There's something about the impact, isn't there? Because just
Yes.
like you said, it's not just about singing. Because if that was the case, then everyone would just be singing and nothing. There would be no impact, and there would be no life changing experiences, right?
Right.
So you did the whole praise and worship thing at church.
Yes.
You know, you was you like choir leader, or was you
Well, you know what? I think that when I started to do praise and worship in church, it was much more than singing. When we did praise and worship, we were taught that we had to get in the presence of God, to find out what's the message He wanted us to sing. A lot of times when we sang, we had to come with scriptural references,
yeah,
So when I came up doing praise and worship, it was much more than whether you had a really great voice or could do riffs or runs, but it was really about understanding the move of God, the
yeah,
flow of God, the atmosphere, setting that thing, living a life that was consecrated to God so that He could use you in that way.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so that's where my love for singing really came about, because it came out of that relationship with God, out of spending time in the presence of God. So you wanted to know that when you sang, people were healed and they were delivered, and things like that. So yeah, it really really started from that church experience.
growing up, you know, as a teenager, who did you listen to? Who would you allow? Should I put it this way? Who were you allowed to listen to in your house?
um, well, to be honest, growing up as a teenager, I listened to all kinds of music because, like I said, my dad loved music, and my
Okay,
dad was not in the church. So my mom got saved, and my dad was not in the church, but our house was filled with music. So I grew up with an appreciation for all types of music.
okay,
But then, when my sister got saved first, and I'll tell you this quick story. There was a hurricane that hit the island, and my I was not saved, and my sister was saved, and so we had one little radio, because when the hurricane hit the island, we were in darkness, for months, right? And
okay.
so we had one little radio that we had to try to listen to the news on. If anybody has been through a hurricane, you really
Yeah,
understand what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So my mother said to keep the peace. My sister gets to listen to her gospel music for a certain time, and then Carrie can listen to
You take turn eaches, right?
so we had to share the radio.
yeah.
But what started happening was that my sister would play gospel music, and I would think, whoa, gospel music sounds like that. So she would play the Clark sisters a lot. And after a while, when it would be like, okay, it's her time is up, I'd be like, just keep on. You could keep on. You could play a little longer. I just didn't know that gospel music would have that kind of impact on me. So that's kind of how I started to feel like, wow, this is really life changing. This has me giving up my radio time.
Which is great, isn't it? But it just goes to show you the power of God and His music that that
Yeah.
it had on you. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And so that led to where you are now. Loving the music that you were hearing on radio, and
Yeah.
what was the first experience of you recording your first ever song? What was that?
Wow. So I had been doing worship in the church, and I really felt led to record. And when I did my first album years ago, it was just a mixture. It was very different from what I was singing in church. It had a little jazz in there, it had
Okay,
reggae in there.
really?
Oh yes, I mean, I'm an island girl, so but it had a mix of so many different things, expressions. that I really felt like God was always trying to show me that He didn't want to put me in a box, that He wanted me to have a message that could reach different nations. And so I think that initially it was a little difficult, right? Because when you're on an island, they're like, come on, give us soca and reggae. What is this jazz you're singing? But I think that God was really trying to show me that He had something within me that was for a bigger audience, and that I would be able to travel to many different places and be able to connect with different people, different styles, different genres. And so, it was a wonderful experience, but it was a little difficult, right? Because sometimes when God is giving you something that's a little bit out of the box, you're like, God, please, you know you want to be accepted,
Yeah.
and but He showed me in that it's okay when God accepts what you give Him as a pure offering. That's really what you should focus on, and so I was really privileged to do that. I was really privileged to do that.
And I guess it kind of showed your versatility as well. You mentioned reggae, soca, jazz.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a true reflection of your father. He wasn't
Yes,
somebody, he liked all types of music, right?
absolutely,
And so that
absolutely.
was reflected as well as you began your journey into music.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's many facets to you, many facets. You
Yes,
study, you study accountancy, and
yes,
you have your own company.
yes.
What came first?
Well, I had studied in school. I went to school for accounting, and I worked for some companies for a while, for a number of years. And then one day I'm in a service, and the preacher is talking about generational wealth, and made a comment that as an employee, it's not like I could leave my job to my children.
You know what? I have to laugh on that one because you're never going to get rich working by the hour.
Right, right. And so you come out of a service, you're just so energized, you know,
Yeah.
and we gave birth to that company. My husband and I gave birth to that company, and God has been just blessing us ever since in that regard. So um you know that's really how that came about. I really wanted to be in a position to have that generational wealth,
Yes.
and so yeah.
And so so was you an actual accountant? What was it that happened?
Yes, I'm an actual accountant.
Okay.
And like I
I
said,
know someone not a million miles away from me right now that is a qualified accountant. All right. Yeah, and it's a great career path, but you decided to launch
yes,
your own company. So you have other
yes.
accountants working for you, partners and stuff like that?
Yeah, so depending on the assignment, then I'll bring in other people to assist when it's bigger than me.
Right.
I really like other people who have their own businesses to come in and partner with me on different projects, and I think that works better for me, right? Because we want to promote small businesses, and
Yeah.
so that allows me to travel. It allows me to um, be able to do ministry from anywhere in the world because of the type of business that I do. As long as I'm connected, I'm able to do it, right?
As long as you're
And
connected to
so,
the internet, right?
yes, I'm able to do it. If I travel to the Virgin Islands today, I just take my laptop and work.
And there you go. So
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 I love.
the computer solutions, would I be correct in saying that's where your husband comes in?
Well, let me tell you, if
Your
we're gonna be
engineer.
honest about how he had to come in and help us
I know
today.
just now I know he did a really good job. What's his name? What's your husband's name?
My beloved Dwayne Fraser.
Oh, Dwayne. I feel like we're brothers, man. He helped
You
you out
saw
so
today
much.
how he had to come in and save me. So
I
you already know
know,
he's the
I
computer
know.
part.
He made us both look good. So, computer solutions, because that's part of it's financial. Fraser's financial and computer solutions. Tell us about the
Yes.
computer solutions part of what you do.
Well, that's more his part.
That's his
you
part, right? But you, I take it that all aspects of computer solutions, so anything to do with IT,
Yes, and
that's where he
information
shines.
security. Yes, from graphic work to networking to information security. He's very big on cybersecurity. That's a big
Okay.
area that he works in. But my area of the computer is that when anything happens, I just shout his name very loudly.
And he comes
That
to
is
the
my
rescue.
computer knowledge. Okay.
He's very good. I can recommend his work because I've seen it in action. He's very good at what he do. So when did you launch the company? How long ago was that?
Oh my God. Woo, Lord, we've been in business. God, it's got to be over 16 years.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
brilliant. Okay.
yeah.
That's great. And I take it that everything is going really well.
Yes, yes. You know, it's kind of one of those things where, like I said, because I'm able to work from anywhere, it has given me that freedom,
Yeah.
because I don't believe anything is wasted with God, right? And so even though I do ministry because I have an accounting degree, I don't want that to be wasted, right? I just wanted God to give me a way to utilize it,
Yeah.
that I can still be a blessing in the kingdom. And so, I get to utilize my degree.
Yeah.
Anytime I've been able to help a church in that way, so I really feel like everything that God has placed on the inside of me, I want to be able to present that back to Him.
I love it, and I totally agree with you 100%. 100%. So, the album that you've got out right now, The Refreshing, we're excited
Yes.
about it because it's such a impacting EP. Tell us
Oh.
about how it all came together. 4 tracks. What was the decision? Who did the writing? Who produced it? How did it all come together?
So I did the writing. I
Okay,
wrote, yeah, I did
you
all
go,
the writing.
girl.
Thank you. I did the writing on this. I love to write music because I think that music is just another way for me to get the message out.
Yeah,
Um, as a preacher, sometimes, people will listen to preaching, but sometimes people get it in a song. And just in saying that, I think that's why for me, songwriting is so important to have a good biblical foundation,
yeah,
because sometimes when people won't necessarily listen to a message, they will listen to a song. So we don't want to put in song things, words that's not sound
yeah.
doctrinally, right?
Yeah, that makes
So I
sense.
wrote, yeah, so I wrote the music. I wrote the songs on the album, and I didn't think I was releasing an EP. Honestly, I just kind of happened into it because I just wanted to gather some worshipers together and just get them all in a room, a few worshipers in a room, and just begin to just take that space and worship. So many times worship leaders, they stand in churches and they sing and they pour out, and I just wanted them to come into a space where we could just worship together, and so I called worshipers together in that setting, and we just worshiped God. There's a song called Open Heaven, um, Grace, Grateful for Grace and the Refreshing. And Open Heaven was actually birthed in a prophetic service. We were just flowing in worship, and the words came, and we didn't change anything. We just let that be what the Lord said. When I did Grace, I had the opportunity at first to work with Kevin Bond, an award-winning producer, and then we went into this live experience and worked on the live version of this song with Anthony Lowe and his team.
Wow.
And it's really songs of my heart. I don't just try to write something and say what's going to be a hit, what's going to be great, but just the message. If you remove the music and just looked at the words, can these words stand alone and make an impact, right? Because I came from that place where, you know, if I say CD, is it going to be too long?
Listen, there's nothing wrong with CDs. But
Well,
yeah,
I came from
I totally get what you're saying because you're coming from that level where it was about you producing a CD of quality and of excellence, and
yes,
you made sure that you got the production right and
yes,
the words prophetically.
yes,
What that was like the gripping part of everything that you were doing, right? Tell us about that.
yes. Yes, I would get years ago, before I had ever recorded music, whenever I would buy music, I would just want to read the words before I even listened to the music. I would just read the words. Like,
Yeah,
words are so important to me. So in writing, we just wanted to have songs that really minister to people's spirit.
yeah.
And that's what we did, and we just had an opportunity to worship together. And my prayer is that as people listen to this work, that they are impacted as we were impacted in that moment. So we're very excited about it.
It's been a while since the EP's been out. What sort of reactions have you been getting from it so far?
Yeah, definitely. It's really, really great feedback on this. Because people have been saying, listen, I've been listening to this song in my time of devotion. When I go into my time with God and I'm laying before God, I'm playing this music. It's ministering to my soul. The songs are ministering to, uh, places, dry areas of my life. And
Yeah,
just people feeling like prophetically they're declaring these things over their lives. And I'm really, really big on what we say to ourselves.
yes.
you know
Because what you
what
do say to yourself makes a big difference to how you live your life and what
is
happens in your life, right?
absolutely, it makes a big difference. And so sometimes in life, it's not just about what people are saying. What are you saying,
Yeah,
about yourself? Because that's going to make your voice is what you're hearing all the time.
yeah.
So I'm very big on declaring things over our lives. And so people have been really, really blessed. And it humbles me. I'm really honored that God would allow me to partner with Him in this kind of work. I count it an honor.
There's something real special about when that happens, isn't it? When you partner with God and then He aligns with, or we align with what He wants us to do, and then you
Oh,
see the visual impact of
yeah.
something like a recording, the
Yes.
testimonies that come back. I was listening to your song and it
Mm.
saved my life.
Whew.
When things like that happen, you know that that's God, right? You just
Yeah, you
know.
realize it's bigger than you.
Yeah,
Because sometimes when we are in the process, and truthfully, when we are in the process of doing this work, there are a lot of things that come up that makes, should I release this? Should I release this now? And sometimes you feel like, well, I don't know. And then when you see the impact, you're like, you know what, God, you're showing me this wasn't even about me.
yeah,
This was bigger
yeah,
than me.
yeah.
And it really humbles you.
One of the things that I love about you, just doing my research, is God has poured in so much into you,
Yeah.
and it's spilling out in so many different ways. You're an author. You're an author.
Yes.
You've written several journals and things. Tell us about that because I found that so interesting that that you can write journals like that will live on way past you.
I was just saying, I was saying this just the other day. We are reading things in the Bible because people were willing to write as they were inspired by God. And all of these thousands of years later,
Mm.
we're reading them. And the question that I posed was, what are you writing that will outlive you?
Yeah.
you know and so as I write the books and the music, my prayer is that I'm leaving a legacy of faith, that even when I'm not here, people will still grab a hold of it and say, I want to have a relationship with God, right? That's what it's all about. But when I wrote the books, I didn't know. And let me tell you, I've been married for a long time, so my husband is a bit used to me by now, right?
He's not
I
surprised
come
by
in,
anything that you do. He's not surprised at all. He's like, "Yep, that's God again." I'll back off and let him do what he needs to do. Right?
I'm the person that will just run in the house and say, I'm writing a book.
Yeah. Okay.
you
You
know?
go ahead. Shall I get a pen?
And he helps me, right, with my crazy ideas. But we I had a conference, a women's conference, and the theme of the conference was taking the limits off. And when I
Yeah.
wrote my first book, I just wanted to capture that moment and the things that God was speaking, because I felt like so many times we put limitations on
Yeah, we
ourselves,
do
and not
sometimes.
just on ourselves. You know what? We put limitations on God as well.
Yeah.
You know,
And if we're
and
not careful, we'll put it on our children and everybody else around us if we're not careful.
exactly, exactly. And I wanted us to kind of like get in that space to say, you know what, you got to take the limits off. Take the limits off of yourself. Take the limits off of God. And then when I wrote my second book, it's called Tea with Pastor Keri, which is also the name of my show. I'm a TV show host.
There you go.
And Tea with Pastor Keri was really because, when I was growing up in the Virgin Islands, it's almost like you couldn't leave the house without drinking tea. You got to drink your tea before you.
You'll do well in the UK. You would do well.
Yes, I did every time. Tea, please.
Tea,
And
please.
so I wrote that book, Tea with Pastor Keri, as kind of like, this is my time that I spend with God when I'm sipping on my little tea and just talking to God. And, I wanted to share devotions with people like that.
Yeah.
And then my last book is called Release from Rejection. And that book, it was actually after the pandemic hit, and we would check up on some of the women and see how they were doing, and I would just kind of share a word with them. And one day I was sharing about rejection, and it's like it hit a chord. It just touched on something, and I said, wow, I need to dive deeper into this.
Yeah.
And I wrote the book. It's a 10-day devotional, and at the anniversary every year I take those 10 days and go through each chapter of the book on the anniversary of the book, because so many people deal with rejection. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who you are,
Yeah.
what you've done, successful or not, you have dealt with rejection. And I wanted people to be free because it can paralyze you.
You know, I think it was brilliant that you wrote that book, and because if you can breathe in and out, and you've lived for a period of time, you would have
Longer than a day.
dealt with rejection, and it comes in so many different forms, doesn't it?
Oh,
You apply for a job, you don't get the job. you
yes,
know, you apply for
yes,
university or college, whatever. You might get in. You want to start a business, you're looking for a loan. So many different ways that you can be rejected.
yes, yes. And you know what? Being in the music industry, I realized that so many times you have to deal with rejection, um, of your authentic self. And if you're not careful, because you don't want to deal with the pain of it, you try to become a counterfeit. You try to become somebody that you're not,
You're not,
hoping that
yeah.
this is what will get you, to be accepted. So I tell people that I would rather be, um, you know, rejected as my authentic self
Yeah.
than to be accepted as a counterfeit.
Rejection doesn't define who you are.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
How important is that to really understand?
Well, I think that it's, first of all, when we understand that we were fearfully and wonderfully made by
Ah,
God.
Now you're
And
coming with it. Now you're coming with the realness.
yeah, when we have to get that first. We have to embrace that first, who we are, in his eyes, and our authentic self, who he has called us to be. When we grab a hold of that, you know we understand that even Jesus was rejected. So we cannot
Yes.
be exempt from something that Jesus had to endure. But he is not, if you will be rejected, is when you are rejected,
Yeah.
but how you handle the rejection makes the difference. Some people, when they're rejected, they get stuck, they're paralyzed in that moment. And so it is for us to understand that, listen, you rejecting me speaks more of your opinion. It doesn't speak of my value or worth.
Yeah. Because
It
it
doesn't.
shouldn't really seek to change who you really are, who God created you to be. And this is why
Exactly.
it's so important to understand as children of God that if
Yeah.
you're not a child of God, that you need to be. You need to become
Yes.
a child of God, because in doing so, there are just so many benefits,
Yes.
to really understanding who you are. I
Yes.
guess more importantly, whose you are, right?
Whose you are. Yes. Yes. I think that is so key. It took a long time. It didn't come overnight for sure. It took a long time for me to embrace my authentic self and who God had called me to be. And that sometimes requires us taking off layers of expectations of others and society's expectations. I tell people all the time, it's very difficult to compare yourself to something that's not real. I mean, we're in a time where there's so much on social media,
Yep.
and everything on social media looks great and grand and
Doesn't it just?
wonderful. And yeah, then you stay there in your home depressed because you're like, I don't have that and I'm not happy like that, and you're comparing yourself to sometimes something that's not even real.
It's not even real. Yeah.
So I definitely think rejection, I tell people, it's hard and it hurts. It's definitely not something that I brush over, like, oh, get over it, because it is difficult. Some people deal with parental rejection in ministry, in relationships, in business, all kinds of ways rejection shows up. But I do think that we have to be intentional about moving forward from that space, because it doesn't define you.
Certainly doesn't. You're a pastor as well. All right. I know. It's like this is so. We rewound the tape, and I said, like, how did you have the time to even do this? You're a pastor as well. Got your own
Mhm.
church. How did you become a pastor? How?
I didn't know that was going to
I have no idea. Ask God.
happen. I did not know that. Like I said, it really took God and all his holy angels to get me out of the Virgin Islands. And so we came to Georgia, my husband and I, on assignment. And, I really do think that it just kind of evolved into that. Ministry was always something on my heart, whether through music or
Yeah.
outreach. And, this was something that God had spoken deeply to my husband. And I said, "Oh my God, me? What?"
You just happen to be part of the package, right?
But something. I think my reservation
Yeah.
to pastoring really came from what I thought people would expect of me as a
Yeah.
pastor. You know, and one day I met a pastor who had been pastoring for years, and I said, I just don't know
If I'm the
I
one, you don't know if you're the one for this. you know.
don't know, if that's for me. And she said, people will appreciate you being your authentic, real self. And I
Yeah.
think that once I heard that, I embraced it,
Yeah. You didn't
because I
have to. You didn't have to
realized,
change. You didn't have to put on any airs or
no,
graces. You didn't have to. be
Yeah,
somebody else. You didn't have to be
exactly.
Taffy Dollar. You didn't have to be Paula White. You just had to be yourself, right?
Exactly. And when I realized that God has given us different gifts, and even though you might have the same title as another person, that doesn't mean that God expects you to do it the same way that they do it. And I think
Yeah,
that once I was free from what I thought was expected of me, I was able to show up as Keri, and I was able to embrace people for the person that I truly am. And then you realize that's what people needed, that genuine person. I am the worshiper. I'm the person. I can get all dressed up and walk a red carpet, but let me tell you, I'm the same person that could be laid out on the floor.
praise God, praise
It's
the
who I
Lord.
am. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's really great. You know, I just give God thanks for who you are. I can tell
Thank
that
you.
you are a woman of God. Your husband is blessed because of you. Make sure you play this tape to him like several times. You are
I'm gonna just
blessed.
play this part on repeat. I'm gonna tell him I don't even know why he kept repeating this.
You are blessed, young man. You are blessed. I really do give God thanks for you. I can see your ministry going on for years and years, and you are continuing to think of ways, and God has given you witty ideas that will allow, what you do to live on way past you. You have
Yes,
children as well, right?
I
How many children
do.
do you have?
3.
Wow. Proud mom.
Yes, yes, yes. A proud mom, a proud wife. I'm really grateful. I really am grateful. And they're grown, but I'm so grateful that I established a wonderful relationship with my husband outside of my children so that when they were
That's
grown and
important.
gone, we wouldn't
That's
be walking
important.
around the house saying, "Who are you again?"
That's important. That's important. Listen, so the album is available on all streaming platforms.
Yes.
And we would encourage you to go and buy your copy today, download your copy today. It's called The Refreshing,
Yes.
Pastor Keri Fraser. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really, really do appreciate you. And
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
before you go, Keri, can you just share your social networks with us? So, because you never know who's watching this program, and it'd be really nice to see you here in the UK. So, do share with us right now.
Absolutely. I'm very easy to connect with. You can go to my website, www.kerifraser.com, KeriFraser.com. And there you can connect with me through YouTube, different social media platforms. On Instagram, it's at I am Keri Fraser. But if you go to my website, you can definitely connect there, see what we're doing in the ministry, see the products that we have available. And I always love connecting with you all. I'm so, so, so grateful that you are playing the music, loving the music, worshiping to the
We
music.
certainly are.
What an honor.
Thank you so much, Keri. I really do appreciate you.
Thank
And
you.
please give your husband a big hug and tell him that when he comes over, we'll go out for dinner, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
All
God
right, so
bless
there
you.
you go. My guest on the program today was Keri, Pastor Keri Fraser. She's got a wonderful live recorded EP called The Refreshing. Do go and get yourself a copy today. If you like what you saw on the program today, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Put a like on it as well and leave your comment. Until the next time, I'm out of here.